All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Rocky Top Insider Press Pass podcast. This is Ryan Shumpert. I'm Rick Butler. We're here in First Bank Stadium as Tennessee gets a win over in-state rival Vanderbilt by a score of 36-23. But that's not what everyone's talking about. People are happy about Tennessee's win over Vanderbilt. Certainly the fan base is. But there's now more to look forward to ahead as Tennessee officially clinches a spot in the college football playoffs. There's no announcement yet. We'll have to wait until, I guess, are they going to do one championship week Tuesday or
they'll
just
do one
after?
Tuesday, but it won't be any announcement.
There you go. So they'll get one on Tuesday, but then coming up next Sunday, so 8 days from now, will be the official announcement of who's in. But Tennessee won't be playing next weekend as well. So a lot of things going on for Tennessee right now. But the big news of the day is that with a win over Vanderbilt, Tennessee locks in their position. They are sitting good. We'll talk about what all that means later on. But right now, we got a game to break down. How are you doing? You've actually been here in the Mid-State for a good couple days now. Got to spend Thanksgiving with the family. Came over here for the game. How you been?
Doing well, yeah. A little cold over here, but doing well for sure.
Good. All right. Well, let's kind of get into this game. Let's break it down. Let's not waste too much time. Again, number 8 Tennessee gets a win over Vanderbilt by a score of 36-23. The game did not start out in Tennessee's favor, not by any stretch. And I think that we talked about this up in the press box, but our view, we had the whole Tennessee side right across from us. So we were looking directly at it the whole time. There wasn't a ton of noise coming out of that crowd, of that fan base, because they were a bit shell-shocked. Vanderbilt opens the game with a kickoff return for a touchdown. Then Tennessee gets the ball on offense. They fumble it just a couple plays into the drive. Dylan Sampson does. Vanderbilt picks it up in great territory. They go ahead and get a touchdown with their running back. You blink and it's 14-0 before 5 minutes is up.
Yeah, no, you're right. And just a disastrous start for Tennessee. And I almost might have been the best thing about it is that it just took 5 minutes. So, Tennessee had plenty of time to try to respond. And I do think Tennessee's next drive, if I'm not mistaken, they did go score a touchdown and make it 14-7. But even from there, it kind of felt like Vanderbilt was in control for a while. Tennessee turned it over on downs around midfield. Vanderbilt got a field goal, made it 17-7. Vanderbilt moved ball well through the interception. Tennessee came back and turned an interception on the next drive. But really late in the first half when Tennessee started to take control and obviously there was really no way to play worse than they did in the first 5 minutes. They slowly started playing better. And then it felt like, the last 35 minutes of the game, 40 minutes of the game is when Tennessee really dominated.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was going to get to next is that, yes, there were plenty of fans voicing their concerns over Tennessee's slow start, just not really feeling like maybe Tennessee came out as prepared as they could have been to play this game. But you look at what happened over the rest of it. You mentioned a responding touchdown by Tennessee. I can't exactly remember what these numbers were, but at one point for Tennessee it was a 23-3 run, and then a 30-3 run, and then a 33-3 run. And some of those numbers might be off, but the point I'm trying to make is that Tennessee got on a roll, and they really started moving downhill on this Vanderbilt team.
Yeah, 36-3 is what that run ended up at before Vanderbilt put together a touchdown drive. And I think maybe something that, that's standing out to me now more that I look at the stats and I have a little more time than even when we did the postgame show down on the field. I think Nico threw for like 45 yards in the second half. And it's just like the way Tennessee just controlled the game on the ground in the second half. Their opening touchdown in the second half was 13 plays, 75 yards, took 6:17 off the clock. Their next drive just took just under 4 minutes. They ended up hitting Vanderbilt at the 3-yard line, got safety. They went 46 yards on 13 plays, 7:46 to kick a field goal, make it a 3-possession game. And then that's when Vanderbilt finally, when Tennessee got to do a 3-possession game, is finally when Vanderbilt went down and scored. Vanderbilt scored with 5:54 left in the game. And, not that by any means that it felt like Vanderbilt was going to win, but it's like Vanderbilt's got all 3 timeouts. The game's not over. And I'll say maybe one of the biggest plays of the game to put it away. Tennessee was in like 3rd and 7. Dylan Sampson had a 20-yard run. And Tennessee ran out the clock the rest of the way. 10 plays, 57 yards, 5:54 off the clock. A drive that they had gotten into scoring range, probably could have scored again. And it's kind of weird to say in a game where Tennessee fell behind 14-0. But Tennessee wins 36-23. It honestly ended up feeling a little more lopsided even than that.
Yeah, and one of the things that I thought about during the game, and now that I'm seeing your stats, I wish I could show the people what I'm talking about here. So I'll try to briefly condense this down and explain it. But Vanderbilt started the game with a 4-minute drive, a 5-minute drive, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. And I do believe that those were turnovers, if I'm not...
Interception and turnover on downs.
Interception, turnover on downs. But the point I'm trying to make is that they were taking up good time on the clock. Meanwhile, Tennessee had two of their first 4 drives went for less than 30 seconds. One of them was a 9-second drive when Nico Imaliava throws the interception on Tennessee's first play after getting an interception themselves. But then you move down to the latter stages of the game, and it completely flips. Vanderbilt is not able to control the clock that they were the way they were in the first quarter. Tennessee, meanwhile, completely took over that spot of the game. That whole second half, you're right. Tennessee maybe didn't necessarily do anything that would jump off the stat sheet or anything like that. But boy, did they control the game and get this thing to a victory. And ultimately, Tennessee didn't need style points in this game. Tennessee just needed a win. So that was, to me, one of the most effective parts of this game that I saw was just Tennessee's ability to close this thing out.
Yeah, and it's kind of a weird evolution for Josh Heupel, and certainly they've lost a lot of what they'd done well offensively early in his tenure. Even though he did have some explosive plays today, I guess it's largely conversation for a bigger or a different day. But, I mean, if you remember, Josh Heupel's first year especially, because they were decent, pretty good at it, 22. One of the big talks was Tennessee can't run 4-minute offense. When they're up a touchdown in the fourth quarter, they can't run the ball and run clock. Well, I mean, Tennessee did that to the nth degree today in the second half. And really, like you said, they didn't need the style points. They just needed to win and ice the game that way. One other thing, you were talking about the third downs.
Yeah.
I talk so much about the stat at Georgia where Tennessee got stops on the first 3 third downs of the game, and then Vanderbilt went Georgia went 8 of 11 after that.
That's right.
Completely flip-flopped today. Vanderbilt converted their first 3 third downs. They were 1 for 7 the rest of the way after that. And Tennessee stopped them on the lone 4th down attempt today, went for it. So that was we talked about that being a big aspect going in. It wasn't perfect for Tennessee, but after that start, it was really, really good.
I want you to, if you don't mind, pull up Nico Imaliava's stats. That's something we didn't get to during the instant reaction show, which, by the way, you can go and find our on-field video after the game over on the RTI YouTube channel. But Nico Imaliava finishes the game 18 of 26, 257 yards, 4 touchdowns. We talked about the 1 interception, just a hair under 70% completion percentage on the day. Found some explosive plays. I believe it was an 86-yarder to Dante Thornton.
Yep.
I believe the first one was something like
28, I think.
Okay, I was going to say 31. So right there in that area, 28-yarder to
Dante Thornton. Yeah.
Was it 28?
It was 28. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. So
18 to Miles Kitselman.
Found some explosive plays. 18 to Miles Kitselman right there. I mean, those were all touchdowns that we're just talking about. So I really like the way that he was able to play. Again, that one interception was bad. I'm sure he wants it back. It was wickedly underthrown. But Nico did a really good job, I thought, of being in command of this game. There were plenty of times in the game where he took what the defense was giving it to him, went through a couple of his reads, and checked it down to the check man guy. The check man guy, the check guy, the check man, whatever.
Check down.
The check down. Thank you very much. But there were also times in this game where you could actively see him go through his progressions. I believe on the what was the touchdown over here?
To Matthews. He
Matthews.
Looked right, worked back to the left.
Yeah, he looked right. He worked back to the left, but he was able to work back to the left quick enough to where he was still able to get Matthews going through his cut. I thought those were the sort of plays that really excites the Tennessee fan base about what they're getting from Nico Imaliava and what he's giving Tennessee as they head into the postseason. Certainly, Tennessee's had a bit of lopsided competition here in these last couple of weeks, but I like the way that he has grown and evolved his game to this point now where we're sitting here at the end of the regular season finale saying, man, he was one of those impact players for Tennessee getting up to 36 points on the day.
Yeah, no, I mean, it feels like, really since the second half of Bama, he's just played a lot better. Obviously, he was banged up in there a little bit. The stats against Georgia weren't great, but I thought he played well in that game as, we hashed out afterwards. But you're right. And, the first game all day, and we'll talk more about Dylan Sampson in a little bit, first game all day, Dylan Sampson did not have a touchdown. And that's kind of been the reverse. A lot of times Tennessee's moved the ball through the air, and Sampson's gotten a lot of touchdowns. This game, Tennessee moved the ball both through the air and on the ground, but more so on the ground. And Imaliava had a bunch of touchdowns. So, and did it with some, not traditional guys at receiver. Brew McCoy didn't end up playing today. He had a little hamstring flare-up before the game. And Dante Thornton, who had the 2 big catches in the first half, his third catch was a short screen pass. He got injured on that, did not come back in. So a lot of run for Chris Brazel, a lot of run for Mike Matthews. Even Squirrel White was a little in and out of the lineup. I think you said down in our post-game show that Ryan Sylvia, a friend of the program over at Ball Report, said that, or I think even tweeted out a picture of Squirrel in a sling after the game. So Tennessee was banged up there. Nico was good and made some plays on third down. Made some plays with his legs too, 6 carries for 42 yards.
Yeah.
He was just consistent. And, look, a lot of it, is as simple as he had a lot of time to throw today. The offensive line did a good job of giving him protection. Vanderbilt does not have a very good pass rush, and he just seemed comfortable, not panicked, made plays with his feet when things did break down, and made plenty of big throws over the middle of the football field.
Yeah, you're right. I think that's a great point. I didn't get to or forgot to mention as well, but just the composure. And you're right. Tennessee's offensive line stepped up. They had a nice game. Tennessee got some things going on the ground game a little bit, but you're right. We normally don't sit here and talk about a 4-touchdown performance. That was something that was new and another wrinkle that Tennessee can kind of grow and expand on coming out of this. We might as well just mention it right here since we're on the offense. Dylan Sampson becomes Tennessee's single-season all-time rushing yards leader. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Passes Travis Stevens.
2001.
2001. So a 23-year record is now broken. Phenomenal job by him all season. A guy who's been, banged up, not in the sense of the way that he's necessarily been fighting any particular injuries, but just the wear and tear, the grind of an SEC season, especially with how much Tennessee has put on his back. He's going to continue to be impressive, or he's going to continue to be needed for Tennessee as they move on to the postseason here coming up. But phenomenal season by him, capped off with this record-breaking here in a rivalry game. Not necessarily at home, which I'm sure is not super great. I'm sure he would have liked that inside of Neyland Stadium, where you get the PA announcement and everything like that. But what a way to cap off a tremendous regular season, and we'll see where Tennessee goes on from here. But Dylan Sampson, your new Tennessee football all-time single-season rushing yards leader.
Yeah, 1464 was the previous record for Stevens. Sampson at 1485 now through 12 games. So he'll be the first 1,500-yard rusher in program history, barring something crazy happening in the first round of the playoffs. Also at 22 touchdowns, which is already the single-season rushing touchdown record for Tennessee. 35 career touchdowns. 37 is the career rushing touchdown record, also held by Gene McEver, who had the single-season rushing touchdown record before. So he needs 2 more to tie that. 3 to win. Probably going to need a playoff win, I would imagine, to at least surpass him. To truly surpass him. And today that's where he'll be hurt. Today was his first game without a touchdown. But still, 25 carries, 178 yards. I believe that was a season high in rushing yards for Sampson. So a really strong performance.
Anything else you want to get to from the offensive side of the ball before we move over?
Just the last note on third downs. I mean, I wrote about it this week in my look at Vanderbilt. Their third down defense has been bad. Tennessee 11 of 15 on third downs today. So very, very efficient in short yardage and in some third and long spots.
Got to capitalize where you can, and obviously the third down metric is a big one on both sides of the ball. So if you have an opportunity to take advantage of the third down metric, then go ahead and do it, because that is going to be big for the game. Flipping to the defensive side of the ball, Vanderbilt, man, has given some top teams some trouble. Obviously, Texas was in a nail biter with Vanderbilt. Alabama was obviously upset by Vanderbilt. This is a bowl eligible team. In fact, they became bowl eligible all the way back at the beginning of November. So it's not even like they just sort of skated into that record here in the last couple weeks. I guess last couple weeks is right, but a full month ago to an extent. They've got a unique offense. It is to me, it sort of flourishes in a little bit of chaos because of what Diego Pavia does, because of the way that he can escape the pocket, because of the way that he can get out and make plays. Vanderbilt started the game being able to make some plays. We've obviously talked about that already. But what did you think of the way that Tennessee was able to contain Diego Pavia in the Vanderbilt offense? I think contain is one of the right words to go with there. It's one of the words that I was actually looking for down there on the field in the instant reaction video. But for all the chaotic things that they do, Tennessee really was able to contain that offense a little bit. Let's see. Pavia passes for 104 and a touchdown on 8 of 17 passes, and then runs for only 45. The running back Alexander runs for 60 on the day as well. So what'd you think of that? Tennessee's ability to contain that offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think Vanderbilt had some success running the ball in this game, but they just didn't have any long runs. I mean, Pavia had the longest run at 20 yards. Alexander's longest run was 11 yards. So it was a lot of 4, 6, 8-yard runs when things were going well for Vanderbilt's run game, and it's just hard to sustain long drives that way when you can't create chunk plays. And to me, that was a big part of it. And then Vanderbilt just couldn't pass the ball really at all. I mean, Pavia, of those 104 yards, I bet 50 of them were on that last drive of the game.
Yeah.
The lone touchdown was on that last drive of the game. And look, he made some plays both in the quarterback designed run and when things were off script. But for the most part, Tennessee did a good job of getting him to the ground. They sacked him 3 times. and did a solid job of not letting him get going, and really did to shut down Vanderbilt's passing attack. I thought the secondary was very good. It did not feel like Vanderbilt had open receivers really at any point in this game. The one thing I would say, I guess, being critical of Vanderbilt's offense coordinator, I don't know his name. I do know he came with Pavia from New Mexico State, I believe. A couple of times early in this game, Vanderbilt had chances Vanderbilt had momentum, I guess. Third and short, fourth and short, 3 times. They passed all 3 times. They were running the ball well at that point in the game. All 3 times Tennessee snuffed it out. One of them led to the field goal that Vanderbilt made to go up 17-7 when it really felt like they could have put Tennessee in a bad spot if they went up 21-7. Another one that, they went play action when they turned the ball over on downs, and Pavia was sacked, and I think there was another one that missing too. So maybe I think that one was 3rd and longer, the Pavia interception, and McCoy made the circus catch. But I did think that was, a misstep from Vanderbilt from a play calling standpoint. But overall, not a whole lot was working for Vanderbilt today. And, total yardage, 538 for Tennessee, 212 Vanderbilt.
Maybe it's a little bit of recency bias, but I was almost having similar thoughts in my head when Vanderbilt wasn't trying to run for that 3rd and 3, 4th and 2, 4th and 1, whatever it was. Going back to last night's game in Athens with Haynes King I guess it would be Georgia Tech not dialing up run plays for Haynes King and the Georgia Tech offense as they were trying to get those 2-point conversions. I agree. I think those were points where Tennessee was able to drop back. They were able to cover those passes. Pavia, not the greatest passer. He's more of a what's the word I'm looking for? He's more of a jack of all trades, a chaos creator, can really operate well in those moments. And I didn't think those were necessarily moments where they had everything lined up well. So that's a good point by you. Jermon McCoy makes one of the definitive game-changing plays in this game. I can't remember where it was. I know you'll kind of wrangle it back in here in a second. But
second quarter.
What an incredible play for him right here in this end zone over here.
Actually, first quarter. No, second quarter. Or one of the
around
first or second play of the second quarter.
There you go. So right around the switch to the second quarter, makes a circus catch in the end zone. I believe he's on his back when he finally corrals in that ball. Jermon McCoy continues to be one of the star cornerbacks of not just the SEC, but of the college football landscape in general. That was, and again, I can't necessarily. It's a little bit late. We're making our way through, but I can't necessarily think of what happened after that for Tennessee, what that led to.
The Nico interception.
Oh, you're right. It did lead to the interception.
It definitely didn't get the love on social media that it would have otherwise because Tennessee immediately turned the ball back over.
That's a great point. But Vanderbilt's offense, at least from that point, struggled after that.
No, you're right.
The wheels sort of came off after the Jermon McCoy interception.
And that was, they were in field goal range or verge of field goal range at like the 30-yard line. So that was an opportunity for Vanderbilt to score. They had a decent little drive the next drive, but ended up that's when they turned it over on downs with that play action pass we were talking about. So, yeah, a big part of Tennessee's defense solidifying itself, and really those 2 drives, the interception and turnover on downs. Vanderbilt's first 2 drives, 7-play, 26-yard touchdown drive, 61-yard field goal drive, interception, turnover on downs, 3 and out, punt, into half, punt, safety. And then the touchdown drive that we mentioned to end the game. So those 2 drives were kind of where Tennessee solidified itself defensively and really started taking control of the game.
Yeah. Otherwise, I can't. What else are we missing on the defensive side of the ball so far that I'm maybe just not looking at because
Evan Spillman.
Oh, with his club hand.
With
the ginormous just tape job on that whatever hand that's been injured. That was funny to see him come in.
Yeah, well, it's just this is his first game back from injury in like 2 months, and did not think we would see him play today. And we don't have the snap counts yet. You can check that out in the PFF grades tomorrow. But he played at least 10+ snaps. It felt like was in the rotation. So I think it speaks to obviously William Minge has rotated a ton this season. I think it speaks to the confidence that they have in Spillman, and not that he was just fantastic or anything, but it seemed like he played solid. Recorded 2 tackles when he was in, and for a guy we hadn't seen at all in a big spot, and he was playing there early when Tennessee was trailing too. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and obviously, again, Vanderbilt's offense not necessarily threatening through the air as much. There were plenty of names where I didn't feel like at least I was calling throughout the game. A Jacoby Thomas, a Ricky Gibson. Not to say that they didn't make plays. But obviously, Vanderbilt is going to be more of a run-first team. So you're going to see the big guys up front create some chaos around the football. Obviously, the linebacker is going to play, and it's an 11-man defense. But Tennessee just wasn't tested too much through the air, and we will see what happens next. What else stands out to you about the defense, if anything much?
Yeah, not a ton. I mean, I would just say the big play, Tyree West.
The safety.
On the safety, trying to run off tackle, he makes a good play. I was surprised that stood, to be honest. I thought usually they give you the forward progress if you get out of the end zone at all, and it looked like he did. So that was surprising, but a big play in the game. Really rewarded Josh Heupel's decision to punt kind of from the fringe field goal, go for it, punt range. So that was a big one, and I think that's Tennessee's defensive line was solid. Got some pressure on Pavia, had 3 sacks. Jackson Boyd was, I think, the guy that had a lone individual sack and a couple team sacks in there as well.
A couple special teams notes. Number one, I think if you're Vanderbilt, you're happy about the way that your kick return unit played today.
Yep.
They obviously broke it that one at the beginning of the game, and then I believe broke out another at some point through the game as that went on. But really on the Tennessee side of things, I think you give credit to Max Gilbert. Stepped into the first half when things might not have been going completely Tennessee's way. Actually, I believe that was before halftime, right?
Yes.
No. They scored a touchdown before halftime.
Yes, but it was in the first half.
Okay,
in the second quarter.
Either way, Max Gilbert steps up and hits a 50-yarder. And for a guy who has been good for Tennessee this year, but did have that kind of that stretch of troubles through late SEC play-ish, man, that's something that I think is really positive for Tennessee to see. You saw at a different point of the game, Tennessee was around that line of where it was. They ended up taking a delay of game penalty to give a little bit more room so that Jackson Ross could punt it away, which, by the way, was an incredible punt by Jackson Ross. But I think that you saw Tennessee sort of put a little bit of pressure on their kicker, say, hey, we know this is going to be a long one. We want you to go out and hit it. And he doinks it on the bottom crossbar. Still, the momentum carries the ball through, so his 50-yarder is good. But obviously, if you're Tennessee, you hope that creates a little bit of momentum, creates a little bit of confidence, creates a little bit of just kind of good juice going forward for Max Gilbert. Again, that 50-yarder is a big one.
It was, yeah, and it was a big part of the game, just kind of solidifying Tennessee. That made it 17-10 in the second quarter, and he continues to kick the ball well the last couple of weeks. I think he's made his last 2, if not 3, 50-yard field goals, and he missed, his first 3 or 4 from that distance early in the season. So he's starting to get into a little bit of a rhythm.
Well, we're not wrapped up yet, but I guess maybe now's as good of a time as any to move off of the game and onto just sort of what's next for Tennessee football. As we let it off at the beginning of the show, this is a big one for Tennessee. Not only is it a rivalry win, not only is it a big win for your program to get to 10-2 on the season, but it also essentially clinches Tennessee's spot in the college football playoffs. We will see how everything else unfolds around the nation, but Tennessee is in a great spot, could potentially even host a playoff game in Knoxville, depending on how things shake out today. But what have you seen, at least from just what's around Tennessee right now in the college football world, and what that might mean for things going forward? Again, as we record this right now, it's 5:00 p.m. Here on Saturday, so there's still plenty that has not happened yet. But just kind of what's your overall take on that so far?
Yeah, well, I mean, the big one that was very unexpected was Ohio State losing to Michigan today. Will a 10-2 Tennessee jump a 10-2 Ohio State? To me, they seem like they have relatively similar resumes. Loss at Oregon, at Georgia, then obviously at Arkansas, home against Michigan. I think Ohio State would probably have one more better win because they have the win over Indiana, which, I don't think Indiana's really a whole lot better than Florida or a lot of these teams, but certainly it's going to look better. So that'll be interesting to see, and we've seen how the committee has valued things late in the season. So we'll see what that looks like. So Tennessee could potentially jump them. Last I saw, Notre Dame and USC were tied at 21-21. A USC victory would for sure solidify things for Tennessee. So those are the big ones going on that have happened or going on right now. A&M, Texas game tonight. An A&M win helps Tennessee. Again, it doesn't 100% make that likely, or 100% lock it up, but it does make it more likely. So those are the ones to watch. And then this is more just a pure resume thing, but Arkansas leads Missouri 14-10. The Hogs can get 7-5 if they win that game today, and that loss continues to not look quite as bad. And only if Arkansas would have beaten Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State did not win another game this season.
Oh my
after
God!
Arkansas, who had 200 more yards in that game, and Stillwater gave it away. If Arkansas would have won that one, which they should have won, and then and they hold on to win today, they'd go 8-4, and really that would not hardly look like a bad loss for Tennessee at all on the road.
Was that Charlotte? I think we were in Charlotte, at the hotel when we were watching that unfold, and then I believe also Kentucky was playing something.
South Carolina. South Carolina was putting a beat down on Kentucky in Lexington,
which proved a sign of things to come, as South Carolina has done a nice job of putting themselves back in a respectable spot. Kentucky, meanwhile, has completely and utterly floundered this season.
3-9,
I believe a big loss to Louisville today. I can't remember.
They lost. I don't know what the final score was.
Yeah,
I don't think
maybe
it was
not
very
big,
close.
But anyways, all right, we are going to have a lot more to come. Over the course of the next week or so, as Tennessee. Goodness gracious, too much
hiccups.
Too much Diet Pepsi over here. As Tennessee gets as the college football landscape shakes out here on Saturday, we're obviously going to come back with another episode of the RTI Press Pass podcast before championship weekend to break down everything that's happening this weekend, everything that's going to happen next championship weekend, and potentially even what Tennessee's path to hosting a playoff game is, if that's not already pretty decided out by Sunday. Man, there's so many things to talk about. This is just kind of final thoughts as we wrap this thing up. It's a big moment for Tennessee and their program overall. It's obviously the first time that the college football playoff has expanded to the 12-team format, but Tennessee has done a nice job of staying in contention all year. We obviously know about the Arkansas loss that came early in October, but the way that Tennessee has been able to bounce back at times this year has been impressive. And look, it doesn't really matter how you get in. It just matters that you got in, and that's where Tennessee's at right now. Again, they might even be able to host a playoff game, which would be a little bit wild to think about. But certainly this is a huge moment for the program, huge moment for Josh Heupel's tenure as it goes forward. But Tennessee clinches their spot in the college football playoffs, gives us a little bit of early December football to cover that we don't normally get to. So that's certainly fun as well.
Late December.
Yeah, mid
December 20th and 21st, I think.
That is late December. You're right. Yeah.
But plenty to talk about in early December.
Yeah, those other games, the Citrus Bowl, the Cheese, they just come so late in December. It's basically January anyway, so that's what I was thinking. But either way, there's a lot more football to talk about with Tennessee in the playoff race. So we still got a lot more to get to as we go on, and we hope that you are with us for it all. Again, in case you missed our RTI Instant Reaction show down at the field, you can go and find that over at Rocky Top Insider YouTube account, where you can also find all of the press conferences from this Vanderbilt game here today. Includes Josh Heupel, Jermon McCoy, Nico Iamaleava, Dylan Sampson, and more Tennessee players. But we've got a ton of stuff over at the website as well. Stick around with RockyTopInsider.com for all of your Tennessee news, notes, and coverage. But otherwise, we're going to get this thing out of here. We're going to get this thing wrapped up. We're going to get out of here ourselves. A bit of a journey back to Knoxville as we head back here today, or at least I do. I don't know. You're going to be heading down a little bit later.
Yes.
Well, you still got more to do here, but I think I'm rambling now. It's a little bit late in the day. I know I'm tired myself, so we'll just go ahead and get out of here. Thank you very much for listening to the RTI Press Pass podcast. Any other kind of final thoughts as we get this thing out?
No, I don't think so.
This is Ryan Shumpert. You can follow him at rshump00. I'm Rick Butler. You can follow me at Rick_Butler. Otherwise, make sure you're just checking in with Rocky Top Insider each and every day for the best Tennessee news, notes, and coverage. Otherwise, number 8, Tennessee wins their regular season finale against Vanderbilt right here in First Bank Stadium by a score of 36-23. That not only pushes Tennessee to a 10-2 record on the regular season, but also, as we mentioned, clinches Tennessee's spot in the college football playoffs. There's a lot more football to come. Thank you so much for being here with us for it all. This is Ryan. I'm Rick. You've been listening to the Rocky Top Insider Press Pass podcast.